Hello, everybody. I hope you are clear with part 1 and part 2 of this chapter 4, South Asia and the Contemporary World. So, today, through this video, I'll be explaining you part 3, which will include Sri Lanka and Nepal's political history. So, let us start. Let us start with the political history of Nepal. Now, Nepal basically it was a Hindu kingdom under monarchy in the past. There was a rule of the king, but later it changed into constitutional monarchy. Okay. Now, basically, before 1990s there was monarchy, and from 1990s constitutional monarchy came up there. Now, common people of Nepal, they wanted more open and responsive system of government. They wanted the system of government that should be responsive to their needs. But the king, he restricted expansion of democracy in Nepal with the help of army, and he had full control on government. Although there was constitutional monarchy, still being the head of the country, he was having the control on the head of government also, and he do not want to expand more democracy in Nepal. So then after that there were pro democratic movements in Nepal, and King Birendra, he accepted the demand for new democratic constitution in 1990. Means people in 1990, they led the movements for democracy, and King Birendra was there at that time. He accepted that you can make the new constitution in Nepal. Now during 90s, Maoist, the follower of Mao, Mao was the social reformer of China who followed the communism form of government. Now this follower of him, Maoist, they were successful in increasing their influence in Nepal, and they believed in armed insurrection against monarch and ruling elites. Means they believe that violence is necessary to bring down monarchy and to bring down the ruling elites and to establish a proper form of government in Nepal. So this led to the violent conflict between Maoist guerrillas. Guerrillas are no, when people any person come to their area, they used to attack them. So Maoist guerrilla and armed forces of king, there was a violent conflict, violent clash between them, and for some time this conflict, basically it was between three groups: the king, the Maoist, and the people who wanted democracy. Okay, remember, Maoists were not Democrats, they wanted a communist form of government in their country. Now in 2002, King Gyanendra, he abolished parliament and ended the limited democracy that existed in Nepal. Means earlier King Birendra was there, he and his family was killed. There was royal murder of that family. Who killed, that is a secret till now. And after that, King Gyanendra, younger brother of King Birendra, he became the king, and when he came to power in 2002, he completely abolished democracy. Constitutional monarchy was there. He again came to absolute monarchy. He said constitutional monarchy will also not work in Nepal. So again, pro democratic movements, non violent movements, they started in Nepal, and the king ultimately, now who started these movements? Again Maoists were there, then SPA, that is seven parties, seven political parties of Nepal, they were together, that is called SPA, seven party alliance. Maoists were there and many social activists were there who launched the movements against King Gyanendra, who had completely abolished democracy from there. Then finally in 2006, king was forced to restore the parliament which was abolished in 2001 when he came to power. He restored that parliament that was dissolved in 2001 2002, and this Nepal, it turned to be a democratic country. Means in transition to democracy, Nepal moved towards formation of constituent assembly to write the new constitution of Nepal. Means King Gyanendra, he gave up his powers. Democracy was declared in 2006 2007 in Nepal, and the people of Nepal, they started writing the new constitution of Nepal. Now some people in Nepal, they favored that some no form of monarchy should be there. Nominal form means there should be constitutional monarchy in the country, because they feel that it is necessary for Nepal to retain its links with past culture, because throughout this Nepal was a Hindu country, throughout there was monarchy. So they said, to preserve our old culture, some little form of monarchy should be there in the country. Now this Maoists who were in favor of communism, even though they were very attacking in the country, they agreed to suspend their armed struggle. They agreed that they will take back their forces who were struggling in this country, and they wanted, but they said, we want that new constitution should include radical programs. Radical means which change instantly programs regarding social and economic structuring of the society. Social and economic changes should be there in the society. But all parties in SPA, that is seven party alliance, all political parties in SPA, they did not agree with it. Fine. Ultimately, Nepal became a democratic country in 2008 by completely abolishing monarchy, and in 2015 it adopted a new constitution. Maoist and other political groups, now today also Maoist and many other political groups, they are suspicious of Indian government and its role in future of Nepal, because they have somewhere, they have this feeling in their mind that Nepal, this India, they interfere in Nepal politics. So this Maoist and political groups, they are suspicious, they doubt Indian government and its role in the future of Nepal. So that's all regarding the Nepal. I'm repeating, first monarchy was there, then came constitutional monarchy under King Birendra, then after killing of King Birendra, King Gyanendra came to power. He again abolished that constitutional monarchy and he established absolute monarchy. Then people, they rose out in revolt, democratic riots were there, SPA party was there, Maoists were there, many other social workers were there who revolted, and finally King Gyanendra, he accorded recognition to the Constituent Assembly that they can make the new constitution of Nepal. And since 2008, Nepal is working as a democratic country with multi-party system, and this monarchy has been completely abolished from there. Okay, so that's all regarding Nepal. Now let us discuss about the political history of Sri Lanka. Now you know Sri Lanka, it is a neighboring country of India in the south of India. Okay, well, this Sri Lanka, they got their independence from British rule in 1948. Since then, this Sri Lanka has attained and retained democracy. Means since 1948, Sri Lanka is a democratic government country. But this Sri Lanka, they face serious conflict based on ethnicity, which means in that country there is a majority of Sinhala speaking community, and that Sinhala speaking community is hostile towards Tamils who are in minority in that country. Now who are these Tamils? They are those people who are migrated from India to Sri Lanka during British rule, but they are settled there only now. Now the rights and concessions and privileges, they all are in favor of Sinhalas in Sri Lanka, not in favor of Tamils. Now from 1983 onwards, some Tamils, they formed their militant organization. That organization came to be known as LTTE, that is Liberation Tigers of Tamil Eelam. Now they are fighting with army of Sri Lanka, and they are demanding that we want Tamil Eelam, that is we want separate country for Tamils in the northeastern parts of country where they are living. Now there was considerable, now you know Tamils are in India also, and there is considerable pressure from Tamil people in India. Indian Tamils, they are pressurizing Indian government that they should protect the rights and interests of Tamils who are living in Sri Lanka. So Indian government time and again they try to come on talks, they try to negotiate with Sri Lankan government over the Tamils. But finally, in 1987, Indian government interfered directly. Indian government, they signed an agreement with Sri Lankan government, and according to that agreement, Indian government sent Indian peacekeeping troops to normalize the relations between Sri Lankan government and Tamils. Means Indian government tried to normalize the things in Sri Lanka. But Indian army, something happened that Indian army, they got into fight with LTTE only. Means they went there to protect Tamils, but Indian peacekeeping forces, they had fight with LTTE. Now what was the reason for this fight with LTTE? Basically, Indian government, they were Indian peacekeeping forces, they were trying to pacify the war in Sri Lanka, the civil war which was going on in Sri Lanka. They were trying to pacify it, and Sri Lankan government admitted that okay, we will make Sinhala as a national language also, and we will give privileges and rights to Sinhalas. But LTTE group was not no willing to get back, and they were willing to be in conflict again and again. They said that we will attack the Sinhalas because they are not giving us all rights and all. At this point, Indian government attacked LTTE to pacify them and to no, I told you Sri Lanka and India, they signed an agreement. So according to agreement, at any cost, Indian government wants that peace should prevail in Sri Lanka, but LTT was not ready to for that peace. So LTT came in conflict with Indian forces. Now even Sri Lanka government internally under say did not like Indian interference in internal matters of Sri Lanka, and in 1989 Indian government pulled out its peacekeeping forces from Sri Lanka without achieving its objectives, because Indian government, they had a fight with LTTE, and other side Sri Lankan government internally it is being said they were helping somewhere the militants. So Indian government, they pulled out its forces, they asked Indian army to get back from Sri Lanka, and the objective for which Indian government went there, it was not achieved. Okay. Now this Sri Lankan crisis, it continued. Indian government came out, then civil war in Sri Lanka, it continued, and it became more and more violent. Fine. Now these Scandinavian countries like Norway, like Iceland, they every time they try to bring negotiation between the two groups in Sri Lanka, between Sinhalas and Tamils, they try to negotiate it. Finally, this armed conflict between LTT and between Sri Lanka, it came to an end in 2009 when LTTE leader V Prabhakaran, he died in this armed conflict, in this violence, when the leader of LTTE was killed. So this conflict between Sri Lankan army and this Tamils, it came to an end. Some of the rights were provided to Sinhalas in Tamils in Sri Lanka. Now in spite of this conflict, Sri Lanka has registered economic growth and high level of human development is there. This war came to an end in 2009. Now that country is not having any civil war, and Tamils, they are also given some powers, and they are given facilities in that country. So that civil war came to an end after V Prabhakaran death. Okay. Now in spite of all these fights and conflicts and civil war, Sri Lanka has economically grown, and there is high level of human development over there, and this was the first country in South Asia which liberated its economy, means which free its economy, and it had highest GDP for many years. Okay. Now it has, this country, it also has successfully controlled the growth rate of population. Population is not growing at that rate in which it is growing in India. They have controlled the population growth, and in spite of all these internal conflicts, this country has maintained democratic system till today also. So that's all regarding Sri Lanka. Well, with this I finish up with part 3 of chapter 4. Students, I expect each one of you to go through these videos very carefully. Till now we have done South Asia, Pakistan, Nepal and Sri Lanka, Bangladesh. So these are the different countries that we have done till now, and I'll be sending you notes also related to it. So keep watching, keep reading my notes and keep reading your NCERT books. Thank you so much.